Hello, good people. How are we doing? This is Diana Gathoni. If you have been following me, you've been able to see my story from episode 1 to episode 4. We are on episode 5. To the glory of God. I'm grateful to have another opportunity to come to you today. I'm grateful that God has sustained me. I'm happy that most of you have been able to watch episode 1 to 4. Thank you for the feedback. It's been amazing. Thank you for those who called and they were shocked. Someone said it's been a roller coaster of emotion. Same for me as well, because I'm having to relive most of the things that I have lived through since I was maybe, like 11 years old. But thank you for watching. This is Living Free with Diana Gathoni, and I am happy to continue with my story on episode 5. It's amazing. When we were doing 1, I wouldn't think that we would be here at 5. But see what the Lord has done. I'm totally grateful for the grace of God, even to be able to tell my story, to be able to bring healing to someone, to bring hope to someone, to bring life to you who are watching, those who have been able to share with their loved ones as well. Thank you. I thank God that at least a few of those that have watched have in one way or another resonated with how my story looks like. Some of them have found hope. Some of them didn't even know. My own siblings didn't even know how my story looked like. I remember after episode 1, my sister called and she was like, this is your life. And I'm like, yeah, we have lived in the same house all these years, but they had no idea of how my story looked like. So I'm grateful to God for an opportunity to keep telling my story. Remember what I said, your story is your own, you own it. And you are the only one who can tell it with authenticity as it is supposed to be told. I don't trust someone else to tell my story the same way I can tell it, because I'm the one who has lived it. I'm the one who has walked with God in it. I'm the one who is still walking with God even amidst of all of it. So I'm grateful that we are here today, and I think to do a recap on how far we went with the previous one, it was I think we ended off on where we were speaking about the death of Kevin. Kevin was my husband. And I say was because when we did our vows, I got married in 2010, July. I think it was July. Wait, I forget. I'm telling you, sometimes I think there are dates you don't expect to forget. Sometimes I don't remember the day I got married. But I know it was, I think, July. It was July 2010. And when we did our vows, it was till death do us part. So death did do us part. So as sad as that is, I was married for 3 years. Just a recap of it. I was married for 3 years and about 8 months. And when he went home to be with the Lord in 2014, 1st of March 2014, it was a sad day for us. Yeah, for me, for the children. I remember our daughter was 2 years old, Chevelle. Our son Leon was 2 months old. It's hard to believe. Sometimes I look at him now, he's headed to 12 years old, and I'm thinking, where? It's been such a journey to get to where we are. Sometimes I look at Chevelle is 13, turning 14. And you know, nowadays, 13, 14 is like 17-year-olds. You know, it's like us at our time when we were 17, the things we were beginning to know then, now they get to know them when they are 12 years old, 13 years old. And I look at her sometimes, she looks like a copy and paste of her dad. And I look at her now and I'm thinking, wow, the far that we have come. But the journey was not as easy. Of course, if you have lost someone, if you have lost a husband especially, you will know that having to learn how to deal with their death it's not a walk in the park. It's not easy at all. And that is basically, I would begin now from that part of where we had buried him, and now I had to figure out how life looks like for me, how life looks like as just me and our 2 little children that had no idea that life had turned upside down. They had no idea that their dad was not going to come back. I had to look at them, and I was thinking for 3 now. You know, and a few things I learned when we began, when he died and we buried him, and I recap, I said I refurbished everything in the house. We moved out from the house we used to live in. I remember my pastor then, Pastor Charlotte and Pastor Dan, shout out to JCC Eastlands. They are the senior pastors there, Jubilee Christian Church Eastlands. They are amazing pastors. When people complain of why we call our pastors mom and dad, come to me, I will tell you why. Some of them have become literally that mom and dad, that it's not hard for me to call Pastor Charlotte mom. It's not hard for me to call Pastor Daniel dad, because that is what they have been. I remember when Kevin died in 2014, Kevin, he had been moved. He used to be in the sound department in JCC Parklands. We started off in JCC Ngara under our very own blessed memory Bishop Alan and Mom Reverend Kathy. We used to be in the sound department in Ngara. We moved to Parklands, and then 2012, Kevin was moved to by the then HOD of sound department in Parklands, with the permission of our bishop. Kevin was moved to be handling the sound in JCC Buruburu, which is now where we were until he died. And at that time, that is when, of course, the wife follows the husband. And I followed him there. That is where we used to attend church then. And so by the time he was dying, I was not very familiar still with JCC's Islands. Actually, most people didn't know I was Kevin's wife until the time of the burial, the season, of course. We call it Mashakaya in Kikuyu. So I don't know what it's called in English. Mr. Producer, help. I don't know what it's called in English, where people are coming to mourn your husband. Let me put it that way. When people are coming to mourn your husband during that season before the funeral, that is when people discovered I was Kevin's wife. Most people didn't know, because I was a quiet person. I was a very reserved person. Kevin was the people person. He knew everybody. Everybody knew Kevin. He went somewhere. By the time he's done with whatever he's doing there, 98% of the people know who he is. They know what he does. They know his family. This is my wife. These are my children. Sometimes I would be like, sio lazima. They don't have to know. They don't have to know. Just do your bees and we are done and we go back home. So even when we used to fellowship in Buruburu and he was moved to be doing the sound, because what happened then, our Bishop Alan used to go preach there. He would preach in Buruburu and preach in Parklands at the same time. So he would finish Parklands, come to Buruburu, preach, go back. And Kevin was the one who was doing his sound. So most of the times we would go, we would leave the house at 5:30 so that he's in Buru by 6, set up the sound before Bishop comes at 9 or before praise and worship starts. And I would stay in the car. I would only leave the car if praise and worship has begun. If it has not begun, you will not see me in the sanctuary. So that is how much reserved I was. And to say, Pastor Dan and Pastor Charlotte at that time, they were not very familiar with me, because it was when praise and worship begins, that's when I get out of the car and go for service. When service ends, when you're saying amen, I am at the door. I didn't talk to anyone, chat with anyone, nobody knew me. Service, when you're saying the grace would find me at the door, standing, literally standing at the door, waiting for us to say amen. And then I was the first one out and in the car. When people are having tea, because JCC has a norm to make tea and a snack for people after service. When people are having their tea, I'll be the one calling Kevin. Are you done? Because of course, being a people person, I will sit in the car for 1 hour plus waiting for him to come. So, and he would come, he would need to take the sound that we had carried from Parklands, we would carry sound from Parklands, go set it, and then take it back to Parklands after service, because it was the sound that was being used by the teen service in Parklands. So all of that, that was me. I was not a people person, but that changed. But that changed when he died, and I'll tell it a little later. So now, when he died, I don't know, I didn't even know, it's hard to put my thoughts together. I didn't know where to start. Yes, that's it. I didn't know where to start. I didn't want to go back to church. How do you go back to church? I don't like being told sorry. I don't like being told sorry at all. And sadly, when we lose people, the first thing that comes out into the thought of someone is to tell you sorry. I do it as well. When someone has lost someone, the next thing, like today I've seen one of our dear pastors has lost a daughter today, and at least on the day I'm recording this one, and I sit sometimes, I'm like, I don't want to say sorry to the person, because I know we don't like being told sorry when you're encountering and dealing with loss. But most of the times, that's the first thing. That is the heaviest word we feel that can carry the weight of what we feel to tell someone. So I have come to learn, when someone is telling you sorry, yes, some of them may not mean it, but some of them, when you look at the words that we have, or the words that the dictionary gives us that are easy to use, sorry is the word that you can tell someone that seems to carry the weight to express what they are feeling. So someone may come and at that time, they will tell me, Diana, we are so sorry. And at that time I'm grieving and I'm thinking, I don't want you to tell me sorry. You don't even know what I'm feeling. The person doesn't need to feel what you're feeling. And for me, of course, I did not have that understanding then when someone tells you sorry. Now I know, and that's why I'm speaking out, so that we can also learn. I didn't know when someone comes and tells you sorry, it's because they have carried the weight of what they are feeling, and the only word they can find to use is to say sorry. And for you is to receive it and to know that some of them, of course, mean it from their heart. Some of them are just saying it because they don't have anything else to say. And at that time, before we moved, when he died, a week after he died, that's when I moved out from the house we were living in. And I remember the night before the funeral, Pastor Charlotte came and stayed in my house, slept over in my house, slept in my bed. I would be sitting at night and she would be there looking at me. I don't think she slept. She did not sleep. She would be looking at me and she would be like, Diana, I don't have words. I don't have words. I don't know what to tell you. And she would just sit there with me. People would come to my room, say a lot of things, of course, which I don't remember because I did not pay attention. And Pastor Charlotte she has been a wonderful mom throughout the journey. And after the funeral, they were like, you cannot stay in this house by yourself. You have to come stay in our house. And they hosted me in their house for 6 good weeks. 6 good weeks, me, and it's not just me, of course. At this point, it's me and our children. The only time I left their house was when I was going to move things from the house that I was living in then with Kevin to the house that I had opted to move to. I moved my things, paid rent in that house, but I was not in that house for a whole 6 weeks. I stayed with Pastor Charlotte and Pastor Dan. I remember one time I was having such bad acidity because I was not eating, I was breastfeeding. I would sit in the bedroom they had assigned to me. I would sit on the floor, not even on the bed. I would sit on the floor and I would cry, and I would lock that door and cry. And I would remember sometimes Pastor Charlotte would come and ask, where is Diana? She would only be told she has not left her room. She's been there. And I would cry a lot, breastfeed, go back. And I remember this one time I had so much acidity in my tummy. Pastor Dan came maybe around 10:30 p.m. at night. From prayers in the office, and he was told I was sick. I was not feeling well. He left and went to look for a chemist without a car. Alitoka tu akatembea. He just left and went and looked for medicine until he could find antacids. And I remember that's the first time I discovered Malox. Malox is good medicine for acidity. Please don't get used to it though. He bought me the big bottle of Malox. I would drink it like water sometimes because and he had to go, and I'm telling you, I don't even know where he found a chemist and bought, because it took a while, and he walked and walked until he got medicine for me. And for me, they made my journey easier. But at some point, I remember after about 5 weeks, when I told Pastor Charlotte, I want to leave. I have to leave. I can't stay in your house. Because now I was being tormented with seeing Pastor Dan coming back home, a husband coming back to his wife. And mine is not there. And the kids are there calling him dad, and I would be looking at mine. Of course, his kids now, they're there calling him dad. And I will be looking at mine and I'll be thinking, wow, mine will never get an opportunity to call their dad. At least Chevelle was 2 years old, so at least she had called him dad, but she would never remember she had called him dad. So it started paining me watching Pastor Dan's children call him dad. It started eating me up, because now mine will never have an opportunity to call their father dad. And also him coming back home to his house and me knowing that now my husband will never come back home. It started eating me up, so until finally I was like, I want to leave. I told Pastor Charlotte, let me go back to my house where I know he's not coming. Yeah, so I can adjust myself. When I'm here, I'm seeing you love each other with your husband, with Pastor Dan, of course, but now for me, I need to go back to reality. I need to go back to my house. And they were like, Diana, you're not ready. I'm like, I don't even think I will ever be ready. Yeah, there's a chance I may never be ready to go back to my house. But at the end of the day, I still have to go back. I insisted, and a week later is when Pastor Charlotte was like, okay, I will allow you to go back. And of course, and they drove me back. They drove me back to my house, prayed for my house. And that was when that is when my healing began. Because for as long as I was in their house, I was still, I would say, in limbo. I was still in this place where I was not sure he's gone. Of course, I can see a man in the house, Pastor Dan now. So my thoughts were still, they were still fuzzy in the sense of there's still a man in the house. So when I told them I needed to go back to my house, it was for me to have the reality check that there is no man in this house anymore, and my kids don't have someone to call dad, and I need to figure out my life as me. And I felt the best way for me to do that was for me to be in my own house, in my own space, paying my own bills, as in knowing that when I wake up in the morning, I don't have Kevin to call, like we don't have milk, we don't have diapers. And I have a testimony on diapers. When Kevin died, I don't know who it was. Until today, I don't know who the person was. One of the members in JCC Islands went to Pastor Charlotte and said, I will take care of the kids' diapers until the day they stop using diapers. And I would get diapers in bales. You see, like the way you buy bales for clothes. I would get a bale of diapers. The one, it comes packed with, I think, another maybe like 48 packs inside. I would get them on a monthly basis. I'm telling you, what I had was excess of diapers. I would give diapers out because Chevelle just stopped using diapers. Aliamka siku moja, remove diaper, never use diaper again. That was it. So I had only Leon who was using diapers. So and I'm telling you, the person gave me diapers until the day I told Pastor Charlotte, Leon is not using diapers anymore. Chevelle is not using diapers anymore. Please tell the person I have said thank you, but she doesn't have to buy me diapers anymore. We're good. And that is how the supply ceased, because it was no longer necessary. And that may be a testimony for someone. I'm praying for you that wherever you are right now, whatever need you may be having, what I feel in my heart is to tell you that God has a way of supplying. I did not expect that someone would be supplying diapers for me until I no longer had need of them. And I pray that wherever you are right now, God will meet you at your point of need, and He will supply that which you need now until the day you don't need it. And that is God. He is well able to raise someone for you. You don't even have to know the person. You don't have to like the person. You don't have to be familiar with the person. God can raise a person to help you until a point where you no longer need help and can be able to stand on both your feet, or you no longer need that kind of help. And that is what the person did for me, and I pray that God will be able to raise a person like that for you. Amen. Amen. So continuing with my story, I moved back to my house. We went somewhere. It was a good house. Oh, it was a good house. I was like, I'm going to give my kids the best life, and I did not want them to grow up. And it's something I have tried to do until now, but I would say I have failed in some sense, because I was not able to keep it keep the promise to myself completely. But I did not want my kids to one day sit and say, I wish dad was around, because they didn't have something, because they were not living well. So I made it my mandate as a mom to make sure that I filled that void, and they never sat and said, I wish dad was around. So I tried. I have been trying. It's been 11 years since he died, so I have been trying. So back to us moving out, we went back to our house, and that is when healing began. And one thing about healing that you need to learn is that healing is very intentional. Healing is very intentional. I can sit here, I can pray for you, I can tell you my story of healing, But if you're not intentional about wanting to be healed, if you're not intentional of wanting to walk out of that dungeon or that prison that you are in, that is eating you up and eating your health, because you've carried so much from within yourself, if you do not want to heal, if you do not desire to heal, you can't be healed. You can't. And for me, I understood it then by the Spirit of God, and I knew I wanted to be whole. I remember going to prayer and telling the Lord, I don't want to look like this. I don't want to live like this, because the pain of death is, you cannot explain it. Being torn by someone. I heard Our Lady Bishop the other day explain it in a very profound way, because when you're married, you are grafted together with someone. And when you're grafted with someone, not trying to peel that someone off of you is, I was only married for 3 years, but we had enough grafting for it to be very tough. I only feel for those who have to deal with the loss of their spouse after being married for so long. It's even harder for them, you know. And for me at that time, I purposed in my heart, and I went before God after a few months. I went before God and I told God, I don't like the way I feel. I don't like the pain that I'm carrying. I don't like how heavy it is. I don't like, I have, one thing at least I have never lacked is not lacking sleep. Me and sleep, I sleep. I don't have trouble with sleeping. I can sleep. Oh my God, my daughter calls me, Mommy, you are a very heavy sleeper. They discuss, I'm just digressing. Whenever they have come to an agreement, my kids now, Chevelle and Leon, they have come into an agreement. When you need to ask Mom something and you know she will say no, wait for her to sleep. And then early in the morning before she wakes up, ask her. Because when I am asleep, I will say yes to everything. So they know if he wants to go to his friends and maybe I grounded him because he came late and he still wants to go, he'll be like, Mommy, can I go to Akina? Let me say Gitao. Gitao is one of his friends. Can I go to Akina Gitao? We've all closed school. And when he does that in the morning, maybe it's I'm sleeping in and I'll be like, yes, go, but then don't come back. And so when he comes, and he will go before I wake up. So when he comes back now, he will be like, Mommy, but you said yes. And the next thing will be, did you ask me when I was sleeping? And I was like, yes, but you said yes. But anyway, that's me. So even then, I did not have trouble with sleeping. I know people say they don't sleep at night, mostly when they encounter loss. I slept. Yeah, I would sleep. I didn't have trouble with sleeping. But during the day was tough, because when he died, I didn't have a job. I had left my job 1 year before, when I discovered I was pregnant with Leon now, and I had not been working. So you can imagine, the only person. And when Kevin died, he was not doing very well himself, so he did not leave money for me in my account. Sometimes I see people. Someone I knew lost their husband a couple of years back, maybe about four during the COVID season 2020. So that would say that's almost 5 years. And the husband left them with a well enough funds and a lifestyle, that with funds enough to sustain the lifestyle they were living before he died. And I remember a friend sitting with that person, and they were complaining, and they were told, if you were left in the shoes Diana was left, you would be crying. You would think you're crying, you would be crying more. Because I had to figure out, like, literally from the day he died, where is our next meal coming from? From that day, I remember I went to check his bank account, and I was like, I could not believe it. There was no money there, literally nothing. And I was like, oh my God, I was left high and dry. So when we moved out and we started healing, I made healing intentional for me, because if I was going to raise these children, they needed a sober mom. They needed a mom with a sound mind. They needed someone that they can look up to, and I won't spill my anger on them. I won't spill my bitterness on them. And that is something that most of us are doing that have not healed. Whatever it is that you need to heal from, when you do not make it an intentional decision for you to heal, you will spill off on people. you will spill off the anger on people, the bitterness on people. And sometimes you don't even know you're angry, it just comes out. But you see now, it comes out of the abundance of your heart. That is what will come out. And some of you, you sit and you are like, I will not be angry at you again, I am so sorry. But you see, saying sorry and telling the person, I will no longer be angry at you, and you have not healed from what caused that anger in the first place, it is only a matter of time that you will be triggered again, and that anger will come out, that bitterness will come out. And for me, I knew that is not the kind of life I wanted to live. So I went to God and I told God, you made me, you created me. I remember sitting in the floor of my bedroom at that time. I sat on the floor after the kids had gone to bed, and I cried. I was crying. I would cry at night, by the way. Most of the times, me crying, anyone who stayed with me, because amazingly, after Kevin died, I hosted a lot of people in my house. Even after that, people who were going through a tough time. I had at least 2 permanent people living with me. They had been going through a rough time, and I was like, since now I don't have a husband, just come to my house. I don't have someone to ask permission from. So, and I technically or generally, I have a heart, a compassionate heart, a heart that loves people, and I will not let you suffer if there's something I can do about it. Even when I am suffering myself, we will find a way to make our sufferings together easier. So I was hosting about 2 people, and even if you were to ask them now, they did not see me cry during the day. They did not see me. During the day, life was normal. It was very normal because I have these 2 children I have to deal with. And one thing I would like to advise someone who has children and is going through grief of a spouse, whether it is your wife that has passed away recently or even just passed away. We have people who have, some of you may be watching and you know someone, or you are the person, your spouse died a couple of years back, but it still feels like the day you buried them. It's because you have not intentionally started to heal. And I would like to speak to that person that has children. Your spouse passed on and you have children. You see, mine was 2 months, and the older one was 2 years. But one thing I knew is that I would never be okay until they are okay. I can never be healed until they themselves have healed. So the first initial prayers that I actually made before God, before my own, was I asked the Lord to, these little ones, they cannot express themselves. Remember I mentioned in my previous episode of how Chevelle cried during the funeral of his dad, and she only stopped crying after he had, the casket had been laid down on the ground and they started pouring sand on it. That is when, soil on it, that is when she stopped crying. So when I looked at them, I couldn't ask her, how are you feeling? And she would respond. Leon was 2 months old when, from the day his dad passed away, he refused to breastfeed. From the mortuary that day, because I went to the hospital when Kevin died. He died while I was there at the hospital. And I remember the doctor was very reckless. He was like, uyu ameenda, uyu. You know the way they lift their hand and it just falls down like a lifeless body. And the doctor was like, uyu ameenda. And the doctor walked away and I was standing there by myself. I remember I almost collapsed. It's only that I remember our friend Ben, he had made it to the hospital at that time, and our best couple that time, Pastor Omtai from JCC Utawala, they were there with me. They are the ones who held me when I was almost going to the floor. Imagine the doctor saying, uyu ameenda. And I was like, oh my God. So after that moment, I knew I wanted to pray for my kids before I could pray for myself. I would not be okay and they were not okay. And so I started praying a prayer for them and asking God, you who created them and you know them, they have no capacity right now to express themselves. I asked the Lord, I asked him, Lord, these ones, heal them first. Before you even touch me, heal these ones. Because I don't know what is happening. Chevelle would go hide behind a seat for me to be, and you would call her and she would not answer. And initially she would be a lively person. You would look for Chevelle in the house and not find her. Kumbe amejificha nyuma ya kiti. It was a tough thing. And I had to ask the Lord to start healing them before he could heal me and let me know when their hearts were okay. We are going on a short break, but when we come back, I will tell you what happened and if the Lord answered that prayer.
Welcome to Hemax Suites, which is a breathtaking address in the Nairobi Central Business District. Hemax Suites make a convenient and relaxing base for conducting business, attending meetings, or discovering the city's culture and heritage from the heart of Nairobi's CBD. At Hemax Suites, you will not only have a front row experience to savour our unique luxury in the refreshing ambience and comfort of our hotel rooms, but will also have the incredible thrill that comes from sampling our unique blend of both indigenous and exotic cuisine, which is immaculately catered for you in our rooftop restaurant. Our rooms come in different varieties, including deluxe, executive, standard, and twin bedrooms. For food enthusiasts, we got your back as well. Hemax Steakhouse, which is located on the 8th floor of Hemax Suites, is just what the doctor ordered. On this rooftop restaurant, you can enjoy a unique dining experience with stunning views of the Westlands area and the city at large. Start your day with a mesmerising sunrise breakfast or savour a romantic sunset dinner in our prime location. Indulge in our exquisite selection of steaks prepared by talented chefs, accompanied by mouth-watering side dishes. Experience impeccable service and an extraordinary dining atmosphere at Hemax Steakhouse. You may also want to have a refreshing and quality time in our conference facilities, which offer not only the ambience required for a gratifying corporate meeting experience, but also the amenities you may need for the success of such an engagement. To book a room at Hemax Suites, and for any other inquiry about our services, please call us on +254 748 618 009. You can also email us on reservations@hemaxsuites.com. For in-person inquiries and bookings, you can visit us at Hemax Plaza, 4th floor, Kikarok Road, Nairobi Central Business District. We would also be delighted if you could visit our website for further information on our services. You can do so by visiting hemaxsuites.com.
Welcome back. I'm happy that you are still tuned in. And so I began to make this prayer for my kids, and I would be praying and I'll be telling God, this one's 2 months. I don't even know how, if the child has the capacity to feel, and I would be praying and I will be telling God, you who created them, you know them. You who has now become their father, you know how their emotions are, maybe the roller coaster they are going through. I cannot explain it. I cannot explain how my daughter is sitting quiet, not talking to anyone. Eating is a problem. A 2-year-old could not eating. You'd give them food and literally you can tell they don't feel like eating food. They may be hungry. You can even see on their lips, they are hungry, but they don't feel like eating. I remember what they used to take a lot that time was milk. Each of them would take a liter of milk every day. Every day, like I knew I was buying 3 liters of milk every day. 2 was for the children. And you know, if it happens to be packet milk, a carton of milk would probably go for like 4 days in my house. That is all they could take. And of course, milk and children, it's a good thing. So I was happy that at least they're taking a feel of something. But I knew that God needed to work on them. So God started his work. He started his work. I did not see it at first. But the more I prayed, the more I was convinced in my heart that God was working on them, both as God and secondly as their father. And I remember I prayed and I told God, embrace them. Like Chevelle, I remember being that the dad would come home with a Subaru that was his friend's at some point, actually the one he had an accident with. Chevelle had mastered the sound of the Subaru. So she would, anywhere we lived, and there was where we used to live, there was a guy who had a Subaru. Both where we lived when Kevin went home to be with the Lord, and where we moved to, there was still a guy who had a Subaru. So it was still edged in the mind of Chevelle. So every time she had it, you would see her lip, like from her seat, she would like. Of course, now because we had moved houses, she did not have the. She was not accustomed to going to the door to wait for her dad like initially at the beginning. Watch my first episode and you will see what I'm talking about. You will be able to tie the two together. But now in the house we moved to, she could not wait at the door to meet her dad. But you would see her, like from her seat, she would like jump like this when she heard the car come in. And I knew her heart is still wounded. And I kept praying for them until it was about 4 months down the line. Leon was 6 months now, Chevelle 2.5 years now. And I remember one day, she heard the sound of that car, the small things, and she did not leap. And I looked at her and I knew, something has changed. I started observing her from that moment, and I noticed she's laughing now. She's talking. That was after 4 months of the death of their dad, and I can never forget, because that is when now even a smell came back on my face, and I was like, I remember now, Leon, now I would force him to breastfeed during the 4 months period after the death of their father. I would forcefully force him to breastfeed, because me, I'm blessed with milk. You see people say that when they give birth they struggle with milk. Me, my problem is the plentiness. It's too plenty. So I would force him to breastfeed. And I remember after 4 months, when I noticed Chevelle was now not hiding in dark places, because she would go to any dark corner, any dark place, she would go and hide there. She would go to the bed. I remember my bed was high enough for her to go sit under, literally sit down under the bed. She would sit and she would pull the duvet on the front side so that under the bed it's darker. So she would get under the bed, pull it until it had covered completely that place, and she would sit under the bed. And just to make the place had to be dark. Wherever she sat, it had to be dark. And I remember after 4 months is when she started, and she was like, now she's sitting, she's coming back to the childlike person. She's watching cartoons, she's laughing, she's shouting, she's going outside. And I was like, I remember after that I went to, and now Leon also started breastfeeding with ease. It was no trouble at all. He started breastfeeding with ease, and he started becoming this smiley baby. Leon did not give me one sleepless night before Kevin died. He only gave me sleepless nights after Kevin died. But then after that, I noticed he's sleeping at night. He's sleeping well. He's bubbly as a baby. He was like 6 months old now. And I noticed something had changed, and I knew God had done a work in their heart. Remember, I prayed and I told God, when you start working on their hearts and you know they are okay, let me know. And that was the sign God gave me, and I knew they were okay. And that is when I began praying for myself. 4 months after Kevin's funeral, that's when I started praying now for me. When I noticed they were okay, of course I went before God and I wept, and I had the joy of a parent, of knowing that they were no longer in the pain they were in when their dad died. I knew it 100%. I knew God had healed them. I knew it, and that part of me was happy, but there was still me to work on. I was the work. You see, these ones were little. I think for them, God just needed to detach them from, how do I put it? They say it's blood. People normally describe it as blood. I think that's the best way. God had to somehow detach their emotions and their oneness with their dad, detach it a little bit. And so it was a lesser time. For me, it was literally everything. Literally everything. If Kevin woke up from his grave today, I don't think the only thing he would recognize about me was my physique. Nothing else is the same as the day he died. Nothing else is the same as when we used to be married. Nothing else is the same. And of course, for me now, I went to the Lord and I was like, okay, I'm happy you've done an amazing job with our children, Chevelle. And I started telling him, I would talk to him like a man talks to a friend. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing that he used to do with Moses as well. And I would speak to him as a man talks to a friend. And I would tell him, it is not this, speaking in tongues, that I would go before God. No, I'll just go sit, and it is me, and I would imagine he is here and we are talking, and I would be telling him, this is how it is. I'm happy you have dealt with our children. I'm happy Chevelle is well, and I described the signs I have seen. I'm happy Leon is well, and I described the signs I have seen with Leon. and then I told him, but there is me. Yeah, I am the piece of work. I am the one who needs a lot of work. I am the one, I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to drink. I don't know how to live life without Kevin, because you see now, anything that we had planned for future from the day we started dating and definitely from the day we got married was us. It was us. It was nothing me, you, it was us. And now trying to figure it out as me, I didn't know how that looked like. And I went before God and I told God, okay, now this is me. Start working on me. The emotions, I don't know how to deal with my emotions. I am happy, I am sad, I am angry, I am bitter. And at that time, I remember, just to take you back, I don't even think I mentioned this during the first episode. I did not. What happened was January of 2014. Remember, he rested. Kevin died in 1st of March 2014. In January of 2014, I would be in the kitchen cleaning, and me and the kitchen have, those who know me and water. Whenever I am around water, I can guarantee you the Holy Spirit will speak to me. There's a way we have that rapport when it's around water. So when I feel like me and him, you're not talking and I can't hear him well, I look for a waterfall and I will go see. There's a place I used to go in Ruaka that has a waterfall, a hotel there. I will go sit near a waterfall, and there I can guarantee you I will be at ease. So I will be in the kitchen in January of 2014, and I would be taken into a trance, and it would be me, Leon, and Chevelle, and Kevin was not in the picture. And it happened for 2 months, the entire month of January, like literally almost on a daily basis, and the month of February, and I would be sitting, I would be in the kitchen, and I would travel in a trance while I'm still doing my dishes, and it would just be the three of us, and Kevin would not be in the picture. And the prayer I would pray then, by which now I know I made that prayer by the Holy Spirit, the prayer would be that, Lord, no matter what happens, let your presence never leave. And I made in those exact words for 2 months, January and February. Every time I went to wash my dishes and I was in that trance again, and that happened, that is what I would do. And I would be like, Lord, no matter what happens, let your presence not leave. And I made that prayer. And on the day Kevin died, I remember we were in one of the hospitals around almost on Muranga Road there. The day the doctor pronounced him dead, and I went and sat in Ben's car, because Ben is the one who, Ben is a good friend. He's the one who helped me at that time. He took me, and I went and sat in his car. And when I sat in his car, that is when the Lord reminded me. Because what would happen when I made that prayer, and when I had that trance, and I would see just me and the children, after I came back to myself, I would forget, like literally forget, 100% forget, like it never happened. Until the day he died, that is when the Lord reminded me of the 2 months, January and February. That's when he reminded me of the trance and reminded me of the prayer that I would make. And I remember that day as I sat in that car, the Lord made that promise to me, and he told me, my presence will never leave. And if I can guarantee you, until this minute, it's the presence of God that has kept us. He is the one who has kept us. And at that time, when I remembered, and now fast forward to the time I am praying for myself that God will help me heal, I remember making that prayer again and telling God, remember, you said your presence will never leave. Remember, I don't even know how your presence looks like right now. Yeah, I remember one time I went before him and I was like, Lord, I don't like you. I don't like you at all. I don't like what you have done. I don't like the path that you have taken me. I don't like that you've just taken someone from my life, and it was time that I was starting to now feel like I'm living. All my life up to that moment, I have fought things. I have fought to be who I am. I have fought literally to be alive. You know, and now when I felt like I was starting to live life, you take the person out, and now I have to start dealing with grief again. When you're getting married, you see, when you're getting married and you're saying till death do us part, when you are lovey-dovey and you're living with this person, and I'm not saying this to scare anyone, please. It is not to scare you. Please love. Please get married. Stay married. Love people. Love your husband. Love your spouse. I'm not saying this to discourage anyone. But when you're getting married, you never think that that person will die. What you have in your head is like 90 years old, here we come. You know, we will live long together. We will live long. Ask even the people who divorce. Most of the time, they are not even aware. You know, and I sat there and I was like, God, I was only married for 3 years. I did not see this one coming. There was no sign. I remember the day he died. I'm telling you, people, our spirits sometimes, okay, not sometimes, they know what is. The Lord knew what he was ahead of Kevin that day. And I remember he left our house that day. I remember Leon was sleeping on our very nice maroon seat. Remember, second episode, maroon seat. He was sitting on our maroon seat. And Chevelle was still in the house. And I remember Kevin got out. I remember, it's funny, I remember this. He had a black jeans. No, he had gray jeans. And he had a striped red and white shirt, which he really loved that polo shirt. It was wash and wear. He really loved it. And he got out and looked. You see, like the way you will survey land. He like got out, looked. And I remember standing at the door and I looked at him and I was like, what are you looking at? You're looking at as if you're surveying something. No, little did I know that he was the last time he was just checking his environment, you know. So somehow his spirit knew that would be the last of him being at home. But anyway, fast forward now, I'm praying and the Lord started doing a work in me. Oh, being separated from someone you love now after they are gone. Oh, it's a tough, I don't even know how to explain. The best way I know how to do it is someone cutting you with a blunt object. Like little by little, slowly, and like they want to cut off your hand or your limb or something, or pluck out your heart, but they are doing so systematically, so slowly. You know, they are not in a hurry to do it. That is how it felt like, because it was like someone was ripping my heart off, you know, and I will be there. I'm telling you, some of you are listening to me and you're like, you're not getting it. This one you cannot get until you are walking in these shoes, and I pray you never do. It was very, very hard. The Lord started working on me. And I remember what he did with me was, he gave me an instruction, which I'm also going to give you as an instruction. He gave me this instruction, and he told me we are going to take it one thing at a time. At first, I didn't know what he meant. And I was like, one thing at a time. It's amazing that still in that season, I could still hear his voice. Because some of us need to understand that when you're going through a tough season, God knows how to camouflage himself and fit your situation and speak to you in a manner that you will understand in that way. Because sometimes some of us, we normally say that God is not speaking. I don't sense God. I don't feel God. But you see, the thing is, because you're trying to feel him the way you're used to feeling him, and circumstances have changed. You need to understand that when circumstances change, even God has a way of camouflaging himself to fit the circumstance that has changed so that he can speak to you. And at this time, God was not using audible words to speak to me. It was just the knowings of the Spirit. Because one thing that I did was that I knew if I was going to make it alive, I knew if I was going to heal, I had to let God do it. I had to let God do it. So the day I was making a prayer and I told God, walk with me. Well, the day I made that prayer and I told God, okay, you've healed the children, now heal me. I also gave him the liberty to heal me the way he wanted to heal me. Because you see, you cannot ask God to heal you of the wounds you're going through and you're telling him, this is how I want you to do it. No. You can't do that. And I remember that time, and I believe all of these things I was doing by the Spirit of God. It was not me. It was not prayers that I was making out of my subconscious. No. It was the Spirit of God that was helping me. I gave him the liberty, and I literally told him, however you want us to walk, however you want to heal me, I am open. I don't know how it looks like. I don't know how long it will take, but I know for sure I don't like where I am. And some of you need to get there and admit to God and tell God, I don't like where I am. I lost this person. I have lost this property. I have lost my life. I'm starting all over again. And in the story, you will get to hear how many times I have had to start all over again. Right now, I am starting all over again. Literally, I'm starting my life all over again. And at that time, I went and I told God, I had given him the liberty to choose. This is how he wants to heal me. This is how he wants to walk with me. So one of the instructions he gave me by the knowing of the Spirit, because that is now how he was speaking at that time. Remember, my mind has a lot going on. My mind has a lot. My mind has been scattered. My thoughts are scattered. I do not have see, when the Bible talks of a sound mind, I didn't have a sound mind at all. I was an example of a crazy human being walking, and at that time, God could not use a sound to speak to me because my mind was not sound. I could not hear. I could not tell the difference of God's voice and my voice and anybody else's, of the devil, of anger, of bitterness, of loss. Too much was happening. I'm telling you, what happens in someone's mind when they lose someone is a lot. I remember one time I was walking in town 2 months after his funeral. 2 months, no, in the first 1 month after his funeral, he died through a car accident, and he would be the one who was teaching me to drive at that time. And so I knew how to drive, but I was not good at it. And there's this fear that gripped me when he died from a car accident. I knew if I don't deal with it, I will never drive. So what I did when Pastor Charlotte and Pastor Dan hosted me in their house, part of the money that I got when Kevin died, I paid for driving. I paid driving school. And I'm telling you, some of these things, when I look back, I did them by the Spirit of God. I'm telling you, I did them by the Spirit of God. I went 2 weeks after his funeral. 2 weeks. Hey, this was crazy. 2 weeks after his funeral, I came to town here in CBD. And I went to a driving school and I said, I want to learn to drive. I remember Pastor Charlotte, they were shocked. You 2 weeks, you want to, I told them, if I do not learn how to drive now, this fear that has gripped my soul, I will never drive. I will never drive. And I remember I told myself, I want to kill it. I want to kill that fear before it kills me. I want to kill that fear before it has that hold on me that I can never hold a steering wheel. And I remember 2 weeks. This is amazing. 2 weeks after his funeral is when I came and to a driving school in town. And I literally wanted to come into town where there's commotion. I wanted to come. And I came and I started my driving lesson. I came and they were like, you need a month to complete. I told them, no, I want a compressed one. Do you have a compressed lesson? They were like, you can do 4 hours in a day. That means you do it in 2 weeks. I told them that one is the one I want. I wanted to finish this thing quickly before it can eat me up in my head. And that is what I did. I came and I learned my driving. And I remember I would pay the driver extra money to take me on Thika Road. Thika Road was new back then in 2014. It was very new. And I would tell him, take me to the highway. This place where the fear, I don't feel like I can hold a steering on a highway, take me there. And I remember in 2 weeks, I was a competent driver. And just for... I practiced driving with Pastor Charlotte and Pastor Dan's car. They had a car back then. God has blessed them now, and we thank God. Their first car then, not first car, the car they had then was an IST, an East. Hey, I damaged that car. Please allow me laugh. I damaged that car. I would go hit something, because I was practicing to drive and I was this relentless person. And Pastor Charlotte, hey, I love that woman of God. She allowed me. Even if they disagreed with Pastor Dan on me having the car, I would still be given the car. And I would come with it damaged and with the love that Pastor Dan had for me and still has for me and my family. He told me, when you damage the car, don't take it to the garage. Bring it. We will take it to the garage. I would damage it, bring it, tell them I have damaged the car. I hit a pole of steamer somewhere. Oh, Jesus is Lord. I remember one time I came at night around 10 p.m. and he was waiting for me so that he can go for Kesha. And I had his car. That day, I went somewhere and I decided to make a turn, and I did not see, with the lights were off. I had not switched on the lights of the car, so I did not see this post for steamer, and I insisted that the car should turn. So the driver's door could not open. It was like smudged. I came back to his house. He was waiting at the gate, and he tried to open the driver's car. He was like, Diana, what have you done to the car? I'm like, no, I just hit something. Kidogo too. It was just very small. And he was like, Diana, this door cannot open. First of all, can you come out from the co-driver's side? Because this one will not open. And he had to enter the car on the co-driver's side and drive. And he was so angry, and he was going for Kesha. But me, I went and slept. So I learned driving with their car, and maybe by God's grace, I'll get to buy them one as just a token of gratitude for their kindness. But they allowed me. They knew the season I was going through, and they knew that I was doing it so that I do not go on with the fear of Kevin having died from a car accident. And so that is how I learned how to drive. I'm a very good driver. If you're hiring, I am a very good driver. But anyway, so now I started the journey of healing. And when the Lord gave me the instructions, He gave me by the knowing of the Spirit. He told me we will take it step by step. And what He did with me at that time was, remember, I had already dealt with a lot of trauma when I was growing up. So what He did this time, He did it different. He started telling me we'll take the anger. And He was like, and maybe within this episode and the next one, we'll get to deal with these things. Because what the Lord did for me was, He told me pick one, and I picked anger. By the Spirit of God, I picked anger. And for this one, for you who is watching, you have to analyze yourself. And this is something that I did with myself. I analyzed myself. And I remember I journal a lot. I have journals, like I have tons of journals. And so that time, one of the things that I did, I took my journal and I wrote the things that I was feeling. I wrote every emotion I was feeling. And you see, the beautiful thing with this one, it is you're being authentic to yourself. You are being authentic to yourself in the sense that no one is coming to see what you have written. No one is coming to see what you have done. No one is coming to tell you, no, you're not an angry person. You know. If you're an angry person, you know. If you're a bitter person, you know. And so what I did in this season, when the Lord said we pick it one by one, I took a pen and a paper, which you need to do. Get a pen and a paper in your quiet time. And I did it in my quiet time. And my quiet time was at night when my kids have gone to sleep. I started writing down, I am angry. Okay, break it down. Angry. Who are you angry at? I'm angry at you, God. I'm angry at myself. I'm angry at Kevin. Why did he agree to die? Did he have to say yes? He would have said, I'm not coming. Did not Hezekiah in the Bible say, no, it is not time? He didn't have to die. So there I was angry at Kevin. And I wrote that, okay, anger. All right. Then I went point 2. I was bitter. Okay, why are you bitter? I was like, just when I'm starting to live life, you decide now Diana can do life by herself. Who told you I can do life by myself? I am very bitter. And I wrote it down and I described how my bitterness looked like. How do I do life by myself now? What made you think that I have the capacity to do? And all of this, I'm expressing it authentically how I feel. Don't sugarcoat it. Write it the way you feel it. And I wrote it down. I'm angry. I'm bitter. My self-esteem had gone to 0. I didn't know how to sit with people. Relationships I had lost, and literally lost. There, I wrote everything down I was feeling. I felt this unforgiveness that I could not explain. Things that were from my past that I thought I had dealt with were now coming up, because it's like a bandage had been ripped from a wound, and I picked those things. And the Lord and I started working on them one by one. And God, in His faithfulness, He never moved to another point until point number 1 was dealt with. Okay, you are angry at me. Okay, why are you angry? What did I do? What do you think? And I wrote, and God gave me scriptures. That time, I would study the Bible, and and not study. I only went to read a scripture if the Lord prompted me. I didn't feel like sitting down and reading the Bible. No, who does that when you're grieving? Okay, people do that, but for me, I did not. And at that time, I would only read a scripture if the Holy Spirit moved me to read one. And so we started off with anger, and I had to now sit with the Holy Spirit. Remember, I would sit with him at night when there was silence in the house and the kids have gone to bed. And we started dealing off with anger. I'm angry at God. I was like, God, I don't understand. 3 years, did we even have to get married? And when we got married, did we have to have children? You know, it's easier when you... for me at least, I thought it would be easier if I had to pick up from the loss of a husband by myself. But now with 2 children, how was I supposed to do that? How was I supposed to raise? I have never in the entire of my life pictured raising children of a single mother. No, I grew up with a family of 2 parents. I did not know what single parenting looks like. And I was there and I was like, I was angry. I was angry at God. And we started dealing with anger. And he started walking me through. And we never moved on to the point of bitterness until I had fully healed from being angry. So you may be watching me and you have all these emotions that are going through your mind because either you are dealing with the loss of a loved one, of a child, of or loss of something, of a business that you have worked, you have worked hard to build, because you are building a marriage, you are building something. So whatever you are using your hands to build, it pains you when it is pulled away from you. So you may be dealing with something of that manner, whatever has brought pain into your heart, whatever it is, whatever it's a person, it's a thing, you need to sit down and in all honesty analyze yourself. Say, this is what I'm feeling. This is, if you're a Christian like me and you walk genuinely with God, decide, tell God, sit genuinely with God. This is how I feel. Talk to him as a man talks to a friend. This is how I feel. These are the things. List them down. These are the things I feel about myself, and this is what I do not like it. And allow God, give him the liberty to walk with you as he wills. And for me, he did that, and that is how we began dealing with anger. And on my next episode, you will be learning more of how the steps that we actually took for me to be healed completely from anger and all these other things that I have listed. I will see you next on our next episode. Please be sure to tune in, like, share, subscribe. It's a joy to always come to you. I am your host, Diana Gathoni. Thank you for watching.
Watch part 6 of this remarkable testimony only on the next episode of Living Free with Diana.